Trophy hunting is fun. To me anyway. I know some people will disagree with that, and that's perfectly fine. I've personally platinumed some games that were either difficult or long or some combination of the two, and I had fun doing them. But what about when a game stops being fun? And how far into a platinum trophy is too far to stop? This will vary from person to person, and what I've learned recently is that I have an exceptionally high tolerance for sitting through rubbish. I mean, this should have been obvious already really, but what if I told you that the game we're looking at today took me 300 hours to platinum? Well, that's not too bad. You can get similar numbers in a lot of big games. What's the big deal? Okay, true enough. But what if I told you that that 300 hours took me a year and a half of daily play to get the platinum? To be clear, this isn't a, oh, I can't bear to play more than a few minutes a day kind of deal. This is, there's no way for me to physically progress doing trophies anymore today, so I guess I'll come back tomorrow. At this point, you may well have realised I'm not going to be talking about a normal game. I'd call it live service, but this service is very much dead. Not literally, you can still play it, but it's far from its peak. Today, I'm going to be talking about Tower of Fantasy. Before getting into the game though, I'd quickly like to reiterate that the worst platinum trophy is not the same as the hardest platinum trophy. There's plenty of hard games and hard platinums that are actually good even if you don't personally like them. I'm also not going to talk about every trophy in the game, as some are easy and just not worth talking about. Don't worry though, we will have enough to dig into, trust me. So what actually is Tower of Fantasy? Tower of Fantasy is an open world gacha action RPG set in a shared world with other players. I hesitate to call it an MMO because I don't know the exact definition and I'd hate to muddy that any more than it already is. But it is at least of a similar vibe. You run into other players around the world. Now I'm not going to spend the whole video comparing it to Genshin Impact, but just at a glance you can see what it's inspired by. Fun fact, when the game was launching it was talked up as the Genshin Killer. I don't know if that was by fans or the company itself, but obviously Tower of Fantasy did not kill Genshin Impact. In fact, I'd argue it barely made a dent. That's not to say the game is irredeemable though. When the game first launched, on PlayStation at least, because I didn't play the PC launch, I had a lot of fun teaming up with randoms that you just come across to defeat bosses and whatnot in the world. I've never spent any real amount of time in an MMO, so this was my first experience with this kind of player interaction. Even then though, the game's cracks were very much showing. On launch, the English dub just didn't work, so everyone was stuck with the Chinese language. Not the end of the world, there were subtitles and whatnot, but it was an early warning sign that this game was not as polished as I would like it to be. Now I've played and indeed platinumed a lot of gacha games. The aforementioned Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Endless Zone Zero, probably another one not made by Hoyoverse, and their platinum trophies at least have never been off-putting. At least if you don't mind these kinds of games. So what makes Tower of Fantasy's platinum trophy so bad to me and different from those? Well, I'll start with something that admittedly is not a problem any longer, but it was at launch and I was playing at launch, so I still want to moan about it. You'll have to indulge me. A lot of gacha games often need you to level up a certain amount to unlock modes or just level up your characters for trophies. This on its own is fine enough, I get it, you need to encourage people to play more. Tower of Fantasy though had the absolutely incredible idea to put hard caps on the amount of experience you could get per day. So day one, launch day, I was having a lot of fun running around doing puzzles, completing quests, until I noticed that I had been stuck at level 18 for a while. I could not believe it when I found out that that was it for the day. No more leveling until tomorrow. To make matters even worse, any EXP I did collect while at the cap was essentially null and void. It would be one thing if it overflowed and was automatically given to me next day when the cap raised, but nope, completely gone. What this meant was that it was actually a detriment to progression to keep playing for the day. Like I said, I get wanting to keep people coming back day after day, but this is the most heavy-handed way that I have personally seen. Essentially saying, stop now, come back tomorrow. Now, like I said, this is not a problem anymore, and in fact there are actually EXP multipliers now to get you to a higher level faster. And I know this because I ended up making extra characters for reasons we will get into, don't worry. The most pressing trophy you need to level up for though is probably Alliance Expert. How this trophy is supposed to work is that you need to beat the Quarantine Zone map on Joint Operations on difficulty 8 with no one in the team going below 50% HP at any point. This mode has rotating missions, so you can't go into Quarantine Zone at any point you want, and you have to make sure it's available on the day that you're on. This is a real challenge of a trophy, and I got lucky enough to get teamed up with some overpowered players that did all the work for me. This was not one that I earned, I fully admit that. Now, you may notice that I said earlier that this is how the trophy is supposed to work. It doesn't work like that anymore because in one of the game's updates, the Joint Ops mode was reworked, and in doing so, they removed the difficulties. Now, this next part is second-hand information because I did get it beforehand, but to my understanding, now it just auto-pops the trophy once you reach level 100, which I guess is good that it's not completely unobtainable, and in fact actually makes leveling up even more important than it was before. The game also has PvP, and there are trophies related to it. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, wow, PvP in a gacha game? I sure hope they balanced that and made it a fun and fair experience for every single person that plays it. They didn't. Even though they set everyone at the same level, the truth is that if you're up against someone with a more meta weapon than you, which just translates to a newer weapon than you, 9 times out of 10 you will lose. And that is assuming that you can even get into a game. When I was trying to get footage for this, I couldn't get into a game and I waited for several hours. And when I was going for the trophy, even then the mode was extremely underpopulated. So you have to hope you can get into a game and then also hope that you're good enough to win, which chances are you won't be, because most people playing this mode are people who have spent actual money on all the good weapons and want to be at the top of the leaderboard. The hardest trophy for this mode needs you to reach the Star General rank, but I went to Grand Marshal, which is the highest rank, and the reason for that is because you get a vehicle out of it, and you need to get 7 unique vehicles for another trophy. You can also use the PvP currency to buy vehicle parts for other vehicles, which is good as otherwise those parts need to be dropped from enemies and the drop rate must be insanely low. I couldn't find any official numbers anywhere because why would I? But this was like I left my game on for several days straight AFK farming and didn't get a single drop levels of low. Anyway, you might have guessed from how I've been moaning about it, I did not in fact do any of this PvP mode legitimately. I did try to, but it was clear it just wasn't going to happen. I really should have taken this chance to just give up, but nope, no I didn't. What did I do instead? I loaded up my PS4, made a second account, and leveled up enough to the point where I unlocked PvP, and then matched with myself on the other console to get free wins, and increase my rank to the maximum over many hours. I guess something good did come out of this mode barely being used. Is this cheating? Almost certainly. Do I care? Absolutely not. The next batch of trophies I want to talk about, I'm going to call the Do Everything in an In-Game Achievement category trophies. Catchy name, I know. These are all fishing achievements, all raid achievements, all cooking achievements, all minigame achievements, and all ingredient achievements. I'll quickly go over all of these. Fishing needs you to get all the alpha fish. These are completely random. When fishing, there's a chance a fish will be bigger and take longer, but there's nothing you can do to affect it substantially. Raids need you to beat 4 different raid bosses at over 50% HP. Cooking needs you to eat 10 of every meal. Minigames need you to essentially get the best score on all 6 minigames. And finally, ingredients need you to get 100 of every single ingredient. While I said every for all of these, in reality it's every before a certain update added more, which I don't know where that update was off the top of my head, but you do get the point. Now, while these all ask different things of you, they all actually have one thing in common. They are all completely broken. Okay, that's not entirely true. There's nothing stopping you from doing all of these legitimately other than a lack of skill and patience. No. How these are broken is to do with the PS5 trophy tracker feature. Now, you know if you're playing a PS5 game and there's a trophy for, say, collect 100 sticky notes. Some games will have a tracker saying, oh, you're at 55% of the way there, and then it updates as you collect more. Tower of Fantasy does this for this selection of trophies as well. Specifically, the tracker increases by 1 every single time you get an in-game achievement that corresponds to one of the ones needed for the trophies. This all sounds completely fine and normal. Well, what the tracker doesn't do is count how many you have. It counts how many times you get the achievement. So what you can do for all of these is make a second or even third character on a different server but still on the same PSN account, level it up to whatever you need to do raids and whatnot, and then once you get an achievement again, even if it's one you've already got, it will add 1 to the achievement tracker. Doing it this way lets you skip some of the harder achievements, like I made 2 characters to do the easy minigame games, for example, so I wouldn't have to do the hard ones like the annoying box moving one. Funnily enough, this oversight was actually the only way to get the raid trophy for a while, as one of the raids you needed the achievements for was removed from rotation and wasn't added back in until the end of April 24. The PlayStation version of the game came out in August 23, so 9 months with an impossible PS5 Platinum by legitimate means, and a completely impossible PS4 Platinum by any means, because there's no tracker to glitch and exploit on the PS4. In case you were wondering, yes, I used multiple characters for all of these, but believe it or not, it was actually a necessity, because the raid trophy is also bugged in a way that if you get both achievements at the same time relating to a single raid, which is quite easy to do if you or a teammate are overpowered and get the kill really quick, then the tracker only increases by 1 even though it should be 2. I swear the broken tracker both gives and takes away in equal measure. Now, the final trophies I want to talk about here are the Utter Awakening trophies, and they are the reason this game took me so long to platinum. There's 3 of these, but they're basically just an increased amount of the same thing. That thing is for getting 6-star weapons, and the highest rarity of these needs you to get 15 6-star weapons. But what is a 6-star weapon? What does that mean? Well, to put it in a way more people will understand, it's the equivalent of getting Constellation 6 of a character in Genshin, aka having 7 copies of them pulled from the gacha. Well, that's not too bad, you may think. I've C6 loads of characters in Genshin. True, most of them are 4 stars, but they still count, right? Yes, they do. Do you know how many 4-star equivalents, aka purples, are in Tower of Fantasy? 5. There are 5, just 5, and all of them were in the game at launch. I never want to hear Star Rail players moaning about the lack of 4 stars ever again. This means that 10 of the 15 6-stars need to be gold weapons. Gold is the equivalent of a 5-star in Genshin and other gachas. Now, as mentioned, this is all to do with the gacha, which means the rate at which you complete this is completely out of your hands. You could theoretically get everything you need within 105 pulls. You won't, but it's theoretically possible. Unless you have a massive amount of resources to spend at once to guarantee a 6-star limited character, I actually found it was a way better idea to spend everything on the standard banner. The reason for this is that the one saving grace for this trophy is that for every 120 pulls you do, you can buy a copy of a 5-star you already own with special currency you get. So, mathing it out, let's say that you get half of what you need from the gacha. So you need 10 6-star gold weapons total, which is 10 times 7, so 70, because you'll need the initial copy at 0 stars as well. You're guaranteed a gold at 80 pulls, so just for simplicity's sake, we'll say you didn't get lucky and they were all at the 80 cap. So 70 times 80 is 5,600. Then divide that by 2 because we said you got lucky and got half of what you need, and that will take you 2,800 pulls. Sadly, this number is not too far off what I actually ended up needing. I think I was around 22 to 2,300. And you know what really sucks about this is that you can get this trophy day one playing within an hour, assuming you're willing to spend real money. Let's do more math. I'm sure that'll be really good for my viewer retention. Let's take that 2,800 number from earlier and figure out roughly how much actual money that will cost. So you buy Tanium, which is a 1-to-1 conversion with dark crystals, and then 150 dark crystals is 1 pull. So we need 2,800 pulls, so we do 150 times 2,800, which is 420,000. Your first purchase of any of the Tanium packs gives you the same amount of bonus dark crystals, and every subsequent purchase gives you 1,300, according to the wiki. So if these numbers are wrong, blame the wiki. The highest pack is $100 for 6,480 Tanium as standard, so we'll do the 420,000 total needed minus 12,960 for the first pack to give us 407,040. Then we'll add the 6,480 plus the 1,300 bonus to get 7,780. Then we'll do 407,040 divided by 7,780 to get the amount of packs we need, which is 52.3. So we'll round up for 53. Plus the one we took off earlier for the first purchase bonus, so 54. Then finally we do 54 times $100 to get the total amount of money needed to get this trophy with no input from the player at $5,400. Now obviously, no one is, hopefully, actually going to spend that much money for a trophy. And it is worth mentioning that our numbers are only theoretical and very few players would have that exact same luck. But the fact that the game has a trophy that even thinks of incentivizing this is unacceptable. I've actually got no problem with free-to-play games wanting to make money. When I was at peak Genshin fanboy, yeah, I spent £60. over a year, and there's nothing in the trophies for that or any other gacha game that I've played that encourages you to spend any money directly like this. Now, before you get all worried about me thinking, no, he didn't, did he? I didn't spend a penny on this game. Instead, I did dailies for a year and a half, as well as scavenging all the maps for as many free pulls as I could, so that is the alternative. Yes, I'm sure I could have done it quicker, but I'll leave that to you. I've got no problem taking the L on this one. You can speedrun this game's Platinum Trophy without spending any money. That's fine. So after all that, what are my thoughts on the game as a whole? Well, in the early days, I did have fun. Everyone had a fresh character and was starting at the same level, but as is always the case, people drop off. It happens to every game. And once that happened, the divide started between the haves and the have-nots, or the people that were willing to spend a lot of money and those that weren't. To be clear, this is not an issue exclusive to this game, and I'm certainly not going to tell other people how to spend their own money. I really don't care if other people want to spend that $5,400. That's their prerogative. The game itself, though, I'm going to be real, I really tried. I am generally positive about games. I don't like being negative, but strap yourself in because that's what we're in for. But first, what did I like? Well, I liked Evangelion, and they had a collab mission, so that was fun, even if the mech gameplay was bad, but positives, staying positive. It was nice to see all the characters. The game's story was certainly there. Maybe it gets good later on. I don't know. I sort of locked in on getting the platinum and ignored everything unrelated to it after a while. I stopped progressing the story as it doesn't directly give you any rewards, which is a problem in itself, but whatever. What about the combat though? Look, I'm not going to pretend I fully engaged with it. There's no reason to ever raise the world level, so I just kept the enemies at level 10. Yes, you can say that's my fault and I wasn't engaging properly, but if a game gives me no reason to, why would I? The combat felt very mashy. Like in Genshin, I'm trying to get the reactions, or in Wuwa, I have to dodge and parry and whatnot. Here, I'm just mashing until it or me dies. It's flashy, sure, but a lot less interesting. Oh, I actually did think of a positive. I like that the gliding doesn't use stamina now. There you go, there's one. An actual really easy positive that I can say is that the game doesn't use the artifact system from Genshin where you need to roll random substats, which, thank God for that. Why did we ever allow this terrible system to be normalized in these gacha games? Because it's not going to go away and I hate it. When it comes to trophies though, that's where the game really falters. For the most part, they're actually easier because of the tracker exploit, but I really am not sure if I can consider that a positive, but I think I'm going to. If it weren't for the Utter Awakening trophies, I would have gotten this platinum over a year ago, and I think that makes it pretty clear just how bad that trophy is. It was that one trophy. I've sunk so much time in already and got all the other trophies that it would be silly for me to stop playing without the platinum. That sunk cost fallacy is a dangerous thing. Now, should you play this game? Well, that depends on you. I know I've been really negative, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will be. If you think you'll like the game, have at it. It's free after all. Just know that I will not be there wherever you search. This was the most satisfying delete from console I've ever done. And that's the video. Did you agree with my takes or am I being a bit too harsh? What's your personal worst platinum trophy? Let me know all that and more in the comments, and while you're down there, why not like and subscribe? It's free, helps me out, and gives you easy access to my videos, both old and new. I did not expect to have to bust out my math skills for this one. It has been many years, so if my numbers are wrong, I am sorry and feel free to please correct me. As I said, it's been many years. Thank you for watching. For now though, I'm off, hunt them troves, and I'll see you next time.